Okay, let's talk about adding some additional users to your blog. What's so awesome about WordPress is, I mean, your blog is always going to have at least one user, which is you, and that's fine. I mean, you can run your own site the way you want to run it, which is fantastic. But what if you're a part of a larger organization? Maybe it's a small startup where there's just a handful of employees, or maybe it's a larger company, over 100 employees, and they want to allow certain key people to add content to the company website. Well, what's so cool about WordPress in that kind of a situation where you're going to have multiple authors, multiple contributors, is, well, first of all, you can have an unlimited number of users, and then what quickly winds up happening is WordPress turns into a content management system, or it kind of takes on that role. If you've heard of CMS before, content management systems, that's what I'm talking about here. So, in other words, we could set it up so that someone comes in, they write the content, they insert their graphics, they set it all up, they click on publish, but they have no control over the formatting of that content. So it's not like they can, mess it up or use the incorrect fonts, or mess up the alignments, or mess up the presentation of the information in any way. All of that can remain sort of locked down, right? So that's kind of one of the cool applications that WordPress is often used for. So let's take a look at setting up some users here. So of course I'm looking at my dashboard here. On the left-hand side, I'm going to click on users there inside the menu. And that brings up our list of users. Now, right now, I only have myself, which is the default user here, the default admin account, which, of course, is created when you and I go and set up WordPress initially. We install it or set it up there. But what we can do here is, well, first of all, imagine we had a list of, let's say, 3 or 4 users, right? We'd get their usernames and their real names and their email addresses and the role. Now, we'll talk about roles. There's different roles that we can assign for the different users, and the number of posts that that individual has created, right? So pretty straightforward stuff. You've got some bulk actions here. You could really, the only bulk action is delete. So you could select multiple users and delete them all in one shot if you wanted to. You can also change their roles. So I could select 2 or 3 different users and change their roles all in one shot, which is great. Now, there's a list of the roles. We'll talk about these roles, or these permission levels, if you will, in just a moment. But before we get to that, let's go and add in a new user. Now, what I could do is I could click on Add New here at the top. That's just fine. Or I could click on Add New over on the left-hand side. Either way, it's going to bring me into this screen here. Now, as a quick aside before we go and create our new user, it's recommended for security purposes to not use the default admin user. So in other words, when you first create your WordPress account, or when you first create your WordPress installation, we get that default admin user. For security reasons, it's a good idea to not use that guy. So in other words, it's a good idea to come in here, create a new user. This is usually what I do right off the bat as soon as I install WordPress, is I come in here, create a new user that doesn't use the username of admin, but something else, possibly something a little bit more cryptic. And then I go back and I delete the default admin user, right? Again, just for security here. So here's a quick example of what I'm talking about. So the username here, maybe what I'll do is I'll use the name user, if it'll let me type here. There we go. But I'll make it a little bit more cryptic. Maybe I'll start using some symbols and some numbers, and maybe an underscore, and maybe a capital letter, something like that, right? Now, give me 2 seconds here, because it's always a good idea to jot this down so you don't forget it, or add it to your list of, usernames and passwords. So that's going to be the new username there. So when I go to whatever my domain is, /WP-admin, that's going to be the username, right? The first name I'll put in, I'm just going to completely make this up here. I'll put in Paul. I don't know anyone named Paul, but Paul Smithers. How's that? And their email address, I'll just put in info@10tonbooks.com. Their website, I'm going to leave that blank. And then we need a password here. Now, I'm just going to put in a very simple password here. We have the strength indicator here at the bottom. So obviously you want to use something that's very strong. So again, they're suggesting here uppercase and lowercase numbers, symbols, this kind of thing to really, strengthen your password there. But again, I'm just keeping it kind of simple here for you. And then below that, send password. Send this password to the new user by email. Good idea. And then below that, we have the role or the permission level. So we have subscriber, administrator, editor, author, and contributor. Now, in the next lesson, we'll talk about the differences between all these guys. But if I'm in a situation where I am setting up a new administrator account because I want to get rid of that default admin account, be sure to set the role to administrator, right? That's what we need to do there. Click on Add User, and that's all there is to it. So there's the new user right there. And then what I'm going to do here is I'll just go back to all users here at the top, and now we have the two users. There's the default admin, there's the new user. So in the real world, what I would do here is I would want to get rid of this account here. So that's the idea. So I could just select them here and then, choose delete and then apply, right? I'm not actually going to do it here, but that would be the idea. And then use this guy as the default administrator role for the blog. And then if I wanted to allow other people, invite other people to write posts on my blog or contribute content to the blog and so on, just back to add new, fill in the info here, and then set the appropriate role. Now these roles, let's talk about these roles, and let's go into a little bit more detail about exactly what the difference is between all these different permission levels.